Hello, my name is Lou from LGM Photo Studio's YouTube channel, and today we're going to go through making an HDR in Lightroom and Photoshop alone, no other software. So stay tuned. Alright, so we want to start with all of your images, your 3 bracketed exposures or more in Lightroom. So here's properly exposed, underexposed, and overexposed. We'll get more into making an HDR and bracketing them in future videos, but for right now, we're in Lightroom. So pay attention. All right, so select all the images by selecting one and holding down Shift and selecting the last one. Right click, edit and merge to HDR Pro in Photoshop. And now you have to give this a little bit of time because these are 3 large images and Photoshop is going to open each one and merge them together. So stay tuned. Alright, so now once that Photoshop has all images open and this Merge to HDR Pro dialog box is open above Photoshop, what you want to do is select Remove Ghosts and make sure to check 32-bit and untick the box to complete toning and Adobe Camera Raw. We're going to do all that in Lightroom. So hit OK and let them create the file. Okay, and now once the file is combined and open in Photoshop, what we want to do is close this and hit Save so that it saves it back to Lightroom. Go back into Lightroom and you can see this edit.tiff is going to be our new image. Now the difference is between all these 3 original images combined and this last image in 32-bit is this. So if you select on one of the original images, go up to exposure, so you have minus and plus 5 stops. On this one combined in 32-bit, you have 10 stops to play with. So all these sliders are now going to be double what they were before. So okay, so let's do some basic toning here. We're going to start with some daylight, warm that up a bit, bring the exposure up a little bit. Okay, slight contrast, bring the highlights down, saturation way up, but we want to go between saturation and the white balance to not make it look yellow. Now this yellowing is a natural yellowing in the actual statue, so we're going to keep that. Shadows, now you're able to see, look at all this shadow detail. It's amazing. There's so much more shadow detail. Okay, so we're going to adjust that to our liking. Now, what you want to do is adjust the whites and the blacks. Now, to properly do that, hold down Option and move the slider up on the whites until you see some white start to pop through, and then let go. Now, the opposite holds hold true with the blacks. So you want to hold down Option, drag that slider down, and so you'll see some things start to show up. So your whites and your blacks are now correct. So we want to add a little tiny bit of clearance. Wow, clearance. A little tiny bit of clarity. No, I just made that word up. So vibrance, we want to bring the vibrance up a little bit. And we're going to counter that with some white balance temperature adjusting down more toward blue. Okay, so now what we want to do zoom in on the image, and you'll be able to see this purple around his forehead and some details, and this green halo. That's chromatic aberration. So if you go down into lens corrections, you can actually do remove chromatic aberration, and it's under color and also under basic. Under color you have more adjustment. So let's click on remove chromatic aberration and see what Lightroom does. That did a pretty good job. So you'll see the difference. There's without it and there's with it. So now what we'd want to do is bring the purple out a little bit more and see there's a little bit of green left. So we want to bring the green hue down a little bit. So effects, we want to add just a tiny bit of vignette if we can. I like vignette. It's just a personal preference, but you don't have to. I want to bring it down just so the corners start to darken slightly. Good enough. And there you have it. Look at all that detail in that image. And that's how you create an HDR with only using Lightroom and Photoshop. No other. There's a ton of different softwares out there to combine bracketed images to make an HDR, but this is how to do it without them. So there we go. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.